You're listening to the OK Dad podcast.
Please leave your message for
Daddy.
Okay, Dad podcast. Let's start this thing.
Can you not put that on YouTube?
You're listening to my husband talk a lot.
Ooh. Well, shiver me timbers here. I am going to do this episode about Jeeps. So, originally, I was thinking, and this has just popped into my mind, I was laying down in bed with my wife, and she's not feeling too well. So, I'm thinking, you know what? Let me go ahead and just go into the studio and see if we can hammer out an episode. So, let me give you the front end of the story first. Me and my wife decided to buy a 2004 yellow Jeep. As one of the perks of the job, we just came upon this Jeep. So a really good perk about this job is employees are eligible to purchase a vehicle if it comes in, and it's called an employee purchase program, a wholesale employee purchase program. And employees are able to purchase a wholesale vehicle for a little bit over asking price, or a little bit over what we paid for it, which is really, really kind of nice too, because a lot of the employees that work here, if they are looking at vehicles and they want, vehicles are expensive, of course. So this lets us kind of look at vehicles that would not go out as a retail vehicle, that would just get sold to a dealer auction and then get sold as one of those like mom and pop lots, or somewhere where like no credit check needed and 30% interest. These are the vehicles that go there too. So they don't have warranties on them or anything. They're pretty aged units. They got high mileage. They usually have problems with it. But if you're auto savvy, you should be able to get one turned around for you. And then sometimes you find diamonds in the rough. And as I was at my work a few months ago, I was walking by, and I've been here 5 years, and we just brought this program back. I was walking our lot, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this yellow Jeep, dust, just full of dust. And I walked by it, and I'd sit down in it, I open it, and I was like, this is a nice Jeep. And so the day went on, a few hours went later, and I get the keys, and I'm like, hey, don't send this vehicle back. I want to take a look at this Jeep at the end of the shift. And more hours passed. I take a look at the Jeep, and I sit inside it. It's a manual transmission Jeep, and it's yellow. I don't see anything wrong with the body of it. And Jeeps, if anybody knows anything about Jeeps, like, people enjoy them so much. They take them out. They take them out on trails. They take them over bumps and lumps and logs and rocks and rivers, everywhere. They take the doors off. They take the top off. They move the windshield down. They take it to the beach. They beat these things up. And they have a lot of fun riding them. They drive like a go-kart. And my first vehicle, I don't know if I've talked about it before, but it's a 91 Jeep Cherokee that my grandmother gave me when she stopped driving. 4-wheel drive. I think I used it all about once and then never again. I don't even think it worked after that. And seeing this Jeep there brought back a lot of memories, and not because of that Cherokee, and I'll go into this later. But seeing that Jeep there, it's in pristine condition. It's in great condition. It's got 125,000 miles on it, and whoever had it took care of it. It had a fresh oil change tag on it, with only, I think, maybe 100 miles driven since that oil change. So I decided, you know what? Let me wash this thing here. Even if I don't want to get it, or even if we don't buy it, at least I'll wash it, and I'll see somebody here is going to want this Jeep. So I move it over at the end of the shift. I spray it down with degreaser. I put soap and water on it. I spray the engine area down with degreaser. I wash it. I don't see any kind of leaks whatsoever. I'm putting a rag to every square inch of this thing on the exterior, on the interior. The inside is minimally cracked. The exterior has zero rust on it. It's got normal wear and tear rust, exterior rust on the under compartment of it. And I'm in love with this Jeep. It's super nice. So I call my wife about it. She does not want it. She wants no part of this Jeep. She doesn't think we need a Jeep. I 100% agree with her. But it's a Jeep and it's in great condition. And she's just not having it. Okay, cool. So I let my boss know. I say, hey, I don't want to backhaul this one. Like, can I let me sleep on this a couple of nights and let me talk about it? And little did I know, there was another guy in the company that was eyeing this exact Jeep, and he wasn't even on site. And so my boss is like, hey, I'm sorry. Brian got to it before I could even tell anybody that you were eyeing it. So he's got dibs right now. And before I even leave for the day, 2 other people come up and like, that's a nice Jeep. Like, let me know if you're not going to buy it. And I'm like, well, if I don't buy it, somebody else is going to buy it. So if he doesn't buy it, I'll let you know. Then after like 2 or 3 dibs, like, you'll have a shot at it. And so now I'm thinking, man, like, a lot of people want this Jeep. I want this Jeep. Like, let me sit on it at least and figure out, what's going to happen. And the next like time I'm there, I'm looking at the Jeep again. The interior looks great. It's got like a 2004 radio, so the CD player doesn't even work. I put a CD in there. I put a share CD in there, and it eats the CD. It doesn't come back out, which is like, okay, cool. Like, it ate it, but that's fine. And the radio works, and it just brings you back. Like, I like being in it because, one, I'm not on my phone. It forces you to like go to the radio to pick music. And then, I mean, after the first week, I got a Bluetooth adapter, but it brings you back. You get in it, you have to search through the stations to find a radio station that you like, to find some music that you want to pick. And then there's commercials, so then you got to turn the knob to a different one. And it's just bringing me back to like a simpler time. And then it also, not that 2004 was simpler, but it also minimizes the space that you're like, the headspace that you're in while you're driving it too, because it's also a manual transmission. And aside from a motorcycle, this is the only vehicle that I've had that's a manual transmission. So it's fun to drive. You're interacting with the driving the whole time. And I mean, it's a pain during rush hour traffic. It is like, there's no way around it, going to second to third to fourth to second, because like traffic slows down. So like, that's frustrating sometimes, but nonetheless, like, it's fun going from first gear to second gear to third gear to fourth to third to second, and like just playing around in traffic too. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's a Jeep, so it's like driving a brick through the air. So everybody's always passing me up. I'm going 65, I'm going 70, and I live in Texas, so people are still going like 75, 80. They're going 10, 15 miles over what I'm driving, and I'm in the slow lane, and people still pass me up. I was driving in the slow lane today, driving Asher, because Asher loves the Jeep. There's no way around it. Anytime we go anywhere, he goes, Dad, I want to drive in the yellow Jeep. Let's take the yellow Jeep. I say, hey, we're going to school. And Asher says, let's go in the yellow Jeep. He gets sad when I pick him up in the truck with Betty and Oliver, because it's not the yellow Jeep. I picked him up 2 days ago, and he just came out so sad because he saw the truck. I'm like, Asher, we're going to go eat right now. Like, Mommy's in the truck and Oliver's in the truck. And he's like, well, I want to go in the yellow Jeep. And we just don't feel comfortable putting Oliver in there. It's a soft top, so it's really noisy when you drive it. Nonetheless, I go back and I start to detail it even more at the end of the shift. And I'm detailing the interior, and I noticed that there's a bunch of ants inside it. So I'm not sure if they were in the area where it was parked, because it was parked in some heavy brush. I'm not sure if there's like a small nest inside or what's going on with it. And I decided to detail it some more, and I realized like it looks really good. The seats are very worn. They got stains on it. So I decided to drive it back to the secondary location that we have. I drive it back. I'm still thinking about getting it. I'm still talking to my wife about it. We're still up and down about it, whether or not we should keep it. And then I detail it so much. I even take an extractor to it, and what that does, it's a super vacuum, if you will, but it heats up the residue, not the residue. It heats up the formula that you want to use to apply to fabrics. So it's used on interior cloth. So it heats up what we call all clean or an extractor formula and soap, and then it sprays it out, and then it immediately vacuums it up. And so as soon as I'm doing that to the seats, just like gray, brown, mush, orange, like almost the color of my hat here, tannish, comes up out of the seats. And I'm doing this 3 or 4 times per seat, and it's picking up all this gunk. The cloth, I don't even know how to describe this, but the cloth feels like 2004. It's very hard, tarpy material, and I'm just in love with it. I detail under the seats, around it, the bolts, anything. The floor of the Jeep, it's so basic that I love it. The floor of the Jeep doesn't even have carpet on it. It's just bare steel that's painted yellow as well. And so this is just reminding me like of all the Jeeps and stuff I've had in my life, which brings me back to my first point, is my father and I would always work on projects. Although we'd never complete any projects, we would always have ideas and thoughts and put effort into completing projects. Never, I can't think of any that we completed to use what we actually thought would happen with them. One of the first projects that we ever started was a go-kart. So instead of buying a go-kart and having those memories with it, my father thought it'd be a great idea to build a go-kart from scratch. He started getting into welding and fabricating metal, and we'd go and get different pieces of metal and he'd work on it. I say I didn't fabricate any pieces of metal or weld. I was just there holding the flashlight. But we never did complete that go-kart. We had a frame. I think we ended up giving it away because we just never completed it. I think we got as far as buying tires for it. We maybe pulled an engine off of a pressure washer once or twice to play with it, but we never got it to fully working. I can remember buying a steering wheel, but that never came to fruition. The next thing that we had was a boat. So we bought an old shell of a boat that we ended up sanding down. We put Bondo. We got it back together. We did some woodworking on it. We even got a boat engine. And then that's kind of where it sat. It sat in the backyard for a few years before we eventually got rid of that too. So we never took that out on the water at all. And then after that, we ended up my father ended up bartering for a 1972 Jeepster Commando. So if anybody knows what that is a Jeep looking like vehicle that is a Jeep. So it's in the Jeep category. It's the front end looks like a Jeep. But at the time, it was the longest backspace Jeep. So it was a 2-door Jeep that we had, but the backspace was maybe like double the size of a normal Jeep. So it didn't have a back seat, but it had nothing but space in the back. So it looked like an old station wagon. It was the first Jeep that had like an angle on the rear end of it. So we got that one in the backyard. We started sanding that one down. We started buying parts for the future for it. And sadly, that one never came to fruition either. And that one was supposed to be the first vehicle that I was going to be driving while I was in high school. So I always had that in my mind, like I'm going to be driving this vehicle. And my father was going to let me pick the color of it. And fun fact, we actually came to this conclusion because my father and I would play chess quite often. And we are not the greatest chess players when you look at like the Queen's Gambit or even in chess club. So we would just play recreationally. We didn't learn any kind of, I wouldn't say we didn't learn moves, but we didn't know that there was a lot more going on in chess than just playing it like checkers with no strategy. That's basically what we did. We'd play chess with no strategies. And I was getting to the age to where if my dad was a sore loser, so if any time it was apparent that I was going to beat him in the game, he would end up knocking the whole board over or knocking over some of the pieces so we wouldn't remember where they went. Pretty frustrating when you're a kid and just learning like how to be a winner, because my dad is of the mentality that he shouldn't let me win. I should win on my own merit rather than having somebody give it to me, which I agree with. But then on the flip side of that coin, when it was apparent that I was going to win, he would knock over the board or he'd become a sore loser, which was frustrating and kind of messes with your like winning losing mentality. And there was a game that we played for the color of the Jeep. And as you guessed it, my color was going to be yellow. And guess who won that game? This guy right here. So I won the color of the Jeep. My dad is not, he doesn't like colors for vehicles that are flashy or bright or just out there and bold. I am. I really love like colorful, as you can tell. Colorful, out there, bold in the vehicle. I feel like if you have a vehicle, it's got to be fun. You got to enjoy it. I personally spend a lot of time in my vehicles, driving to and from, going around town, going to Asher's grandmother's and whatnot. So, I mean, this podcast is coming soon, and I'm gonna really enjoy it. I'm gonna do a road trip recap with the wife, so it's gonna be her first time on, soon to come. But we spend a lot of time in our vehicle. I personally spend a lot of time in my vehicles, so I want it to be something that I like. I want it to be something nice that when I look at it, I like it, and I feel like everybody should be that way too. You should enjoy what you have. And when I saw this yellow Jeep, I was flushed with a bunch of emotions on that first. Now, one side of me, the fiscal side, is like, you don't need to get a loan and pay on something that you don't need at all. 100% agree. The other side of me, the 15-year-old, 16-year-old me is like, well, Brian, you're not going to find another yellow Jeep in this condition. And that Brian's right too. Now, my wife is going with fiscal Brian over here saying, hey, we don't need another vehicle. We have two. We don't need to spend money on this. We have enough debt right now that we're paying off. Why would we get this vehicle? And then Brian over here is saying, hey, like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. The kids are going to love it. You're going to love it. We can drive with the top off, like all the stuff we can do. It's a manual transmission. It can possibly be Cindy's first vehicle when she goes to high school. She can learn stick. Not a lot of people learn stick. Nobody can steal it. Like, all these things are going through my mind. And it took about a week and a half of us talking it over, but we decided, yeah, let's go ahead and take it. And I remember looking back, or I remember being that teenage Brian, thinking back about all the good memories I was going to have with my father, about all the fun times that we were going to have putting more work into it. Because the times that I recall us working on the go-kart is very minimal of me actually doing any kind of work with him on it. The times that I remember on the boat, working on the boat, that I remember me doing any kind of work was just sanding. And if you're sanding, that's a lot of noise going on. So there's no conversation there. It's just kind of me and my dad are there. And same thing with the Jeep. When I think back of the time that me and my dad spent on it, I remember the drive, being in the back seat, driving a good distance. It was probably Fredericksburg when I think about it now as an adult, but it was a few hours away that I remember driving with my father and our family friend who was with him too, with a trailer in the back of the truck, and we picked up this Jeep. And what I remember about that trip is the guy we picked it up from said, well, it might even turn on. And I remember getting excited because this old green rust bucket with a white top could possibly turn on today, and that's going to be the vehicle that I'm going to drive in high school. And sure enough, it did not turn on. It had sat there from 1970 something to 2000 and whatever it was. Maybe it was 2004 when I think about it, because I was about 13, 14, 15, around that time. Well, we got it on top of the trailer, drove it back. And that was one memory that I remember of it. The second memory I remember of is sanding it down and watching my father take out the chairs of it, the seats, watching him disassemble oh no. I'm going to have to edit this right now. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, I knew that headset was going to not have enough batteries for this. But that's all right. So I remember him doing that. I remember him disassembling the interior of it. I remember him taking the engine out, and then I remember the transmission being taken out. I don't remember what happened to the transmission, but we got it taken out nonetheless. I remember him taking out the headlights, the rear lights, trying to fabricate pieces of metal while I was at school. But I don't remember much about myself actually putting like a wrench to it. And I think about doing stuff like that with my kids. And I think about how intentional I want to be when I am doing stuff like that. How much I want to bring them into it. And I don't know how much of it would really happen. So when this Jeep showed up, it kind of gave me a good vibe. And we made the purchase of it, and we have it. And we decided to meet in the middle and do a compromise. So we decided to have it for a minimum of 3 months, and then we'll reevaluate. And during this 3-month period, we can, 1, see how it fits into our budget financially, and then 2, see how the kids enjoy it. And then at the very minimum, we're going to have memories with it. And Asher, when he first got in it, he lost his little mind. And I'm going to put a picture of him up right here. But he lost his little mind. And me and him drove home that night. The reason I went that night to go pick it up, it was raining. So it's a freshly detailed yellow Jeep. And someone had lost the keys to some locks. So I went around 10 o'clock at night to go cut these locks off and put new locks on. And that's when I got the okay that I can take the Jeep home. So instead of just me going to cut locks off and put new ones on, Betty drove me. So Betty drove me, Oliver, and Asher, and we took Asher's car seat and put it in the Jeep while it was raining. And he lost his little mind. He was in his PJ still. And every time we get into the Jeep, he's just as happy. And that's like driving with him home the first night. I'm not going to forget that. And I know he's 3, so I know he probably won't have such a vivid memory of it. But that's the kind of memory that I wanted to have, multiple memories like that with my father. And being able to have some memories like that with Asher and driving a Sonic at night with my wife, pulling up in there, it reminds me of times where me and my wife would vacation to Colorado, and we rented a Mustang, a convertible top. I asked for a Bug convertible, but they only had a Ford Mustang, and I was like, we'll take it. And they're like, I'll give it to you at a lower rate anyways. It reminds me of those times, just sweet, innocent, fun times with the people that you love, the people that you hold close. And it's memories that you make. And it's those memories that you're going to keep a lot longer than something that's tangible, something that's material. And having some memories like that with my own son is something that I'm going to cherish. And then I want to make sure, whether it be a Jeep, whether it be a baseball card or a Pokemon card in my daughter's case, I want to make sure that they remember stuff like that. And the memories are where we should prioritize making memories. And that's where vacations come into play. That's where showing up to theater art productions, showing up to baseball games, soccer games, showing up to class presentations, dances. That's where all these things come into place. Being there. I don't want to get stuck in the memory that it has to be something tangible that we have to do, or it has to be something tangible that we have to keep and hold on to just because it's based in a memory, or it has some kind of connection between me and my children or me and my wife. Because it needs to be the people that you have close to you, that you care, that carries the most importance to you. The people that you're next to, the people that you love, the people that you hold dear. The memories is what life's about. And whether that memory be with a Jeep or something else, that's something that you're going to remember way more. And that's what's going to have more weight in your heart and in your soul than anything else. And when I roll up to this Jeep in the morning now, because I'm using it as my daily driver, unless it dies or we get rid of it, as I roll up to it in the morning, I feel Asher's smile. As I'm driving it down the highway, I feel my wife's little smirk looking at me like, you got your way again, as she drinks some of her Diet Coke with some cherries in it. I feel that. And I used to be so forlorn, as my wife calls it, about not having a Jeep, not a Jeep Cherokee, but an actual Jeep that I thought I was going to have when I was 16. And I thought, I really did, I thought that me wanting that type of Jeep and a Jeep was going to fill some kind of void from when I was a teenager with my dad that I really wanted to have, and I didn't have that. And what it did is it didn't fill a void. It actually created some new memories and made me appreciate my family that much more. And now, having it for only a month and driving it around and making these small little memories with Asher and my wife, I'm totally okay with getting rid of it after 1 month, or after even when 3 months come around. I'm going to feel okay getting rid of it. But I have these memories now that are going to last me forever. They're going to last me way more than 1 month, way more than 3 months. And I get in it and I can hear Asher's little voice. Like, I want to go in the yellow Jeep. I want to go in the yellow Jeep. I can hear my wife. Okay, we're going to do it, but I don't want to hear anything from you for the rest of the year. And when Cindy got in it, she's like, wait, you bought this? And I'm like, yeah, we bought it. Wait, did you get rid of the truck? I was like, no, we didn't get rid of the truck. That's the thing that fits all of us. Wait a minute. So this is ours? Having that conversation with Cindy was so enjoyable. And when I picked her up in it, I had taken the top off. So we didn't have windows or the windows in the back. And we're driving down the main road to get to our house. And we look over and Cindy's hair's going everywhere. And she's all, look at my hair. Look at my hair. And it's going everywhere. And we see these kids and they're looking and they're pointing at us. And I show Cindy, I go, look. And she looks over and I wave. And then they wave back and Cindy's like, And I was like, wave back at them. They're waving at you. So we wave back. And then the lady who's their mom, she rolls down the window and she goes, sorry, that's their favorite color. It's yellow. And I go, no worries. Like, it's my favorite color too. And Cindy's just like, what? This is so crazy, because she feels super cool in this Jeep. And I'll throw a picture of the Jeep up at the end of this. But it's not the crazy mud tire Jeeps with the bumper and it's got a roof rack and it's got 1,400 bulbs. It's a pretty basic yellow Jeep that's just nice and dopey looking. And I love it. And it's these memories. It's these memories that are important. So I want to make sure everybody's just taking that home with you. Make some memories and keep those memories close. Hey, if you've made it this far, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for listening to another episode of the OK Dad. There you go.
He's really big and he's strong. And he's really mine.
I'm all yours.
And I'm so Scott.